It's time for Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Sully's College Football Page is brought to you by the Hilltop Bar, Advantage Insurance, Tommy's Express Car Wash, Dwayne's Cover It All, Buck's Golf Shop, Jim Creeshock Jewelry, Big Fat Design, Sun Printing, Lot Nose, the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home, Mentzner Hardwoods, Krasowski Dental, the Cloverbelt Credit Union, France Propane, Subway, Webco of Wausau, the Kuhn Hearing Center, Carmelo's and Rip Mountain Golf Course, Joe Rader Towing, the Dirks Group, the Intermission Lounge, the Brokaw Credit Union, Champion Insurance, Trap River Golf Club, Central Wisconsin School of Ballet, Red Clover Market, Mountain Bay Auto Care, Charlie's Bar, the People's State Bank, the Mint Cafe, North End Pub, and the Travel Leaders. It's time now for Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO. And good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I should say welcome. We're just starting. It is Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And you can also, of course, as you always can, be able to catch us on YouTube at youtube.com. Catch the show live. You can catch the show whenever you want to. You can actually go back during the off season and watch them all over again. I mean, because it's all there as well. Again, go to youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. I am Chad Holmes, along with Dan Sullivan. Sully, the man behind Sully's College Football Page. Good morning, Sul.
Hey, Chad, we got a nice wintry morning here, a little flurries, so all good.
Absolutely. So we're down to the final two now in college football. The last two nights, we saw some college football semifinal action, one that went right down to the nub, one that was not quite down to the nub. But and then there were two.
And I got to tell you, Indiana may be the best sports story in the last quarter century. You know, where they were to what they're doing. And then you look at the last 2 years, they've lost 2 games. And they lost to the teams that played for the national championship a year ago. And Indiana being 15-0, the last undefeated Indiana team that I can think of would be going back to about 1976 with that team with May and Buckner and those kids playing for Bobby United basketball with Benson. You remember that team?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they were a great team.
You know what? I came across a statistic this week that shows again what Kurt Signetti has done. Going into the 2025 season, in the history of college football, Indiana had more losses than any other program. They were at the bottom, historically. And now, with a big 0 this year, they were passed by Northwestern.
Yes.
And now Indiana's number 2. But it's mind-blowing. It's not only the fact that they're in this position, but the historical aspect is something that you're just not going to see.
Well, we used to always say on the site, the Big Ten had three categories that they
Tiers.
With Indiana having the most losses, but Northwestern right behind them now. Northwestern is in that not overly excited position to be in. Michigan has more wins than anyone in college football. So you had Indiana with more losses, Michigan with more wins. Now I'm gonna throw out a trivia question for you. Which Big Ten school comes to mind that would have played more college football games than anybody in the country. Now, remember, college football started in the East. So that's my hint.
That would, my first thought right off the top would be Rutgers.
That's right. That is exactly who it
as far
is.
east as you go in the Northeast, because you're exactly right. A lot of those Northeastern schools are the one that started it.
The Ivy League was big-time football, Army, Navy, of course, back in the day. But nonetheless, the Big Ten had all three, Chad. They had the team with the most wins, and they still have the team with the most losses, but it's moved from Indiana to Northwestern, and the team who's lined up the most often in Rutgers. So the Big Ten's, when it comes to college football, they clearly are right in the center.
We're going to delve into these games that have occurred in the college football playoff, look ahead to the national championship game coming up here on the program. But now that there's just fewer games, there's so many other areas, and boy, there's never a lack of different topics to discuss when it comes to college football. And today, one of the odd aspects, again, of the calendar of college football is that when you're right in the midst of the Final Four of college football, you're also in the midst of the portal being open. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
And so you're saying, there are really no dopes that are at these universities. So why do they do it? And the reason that they do it like they are doing it is because the coaches want those kids that are in the portal to be available for second semester. And since the semesters now are starting, shortly, they want to get the portal done so those kids can get in for spring practice. So that's the why for it, because otherwise it makes no sense. And even that, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it takes away the focus on the whole journey. The whole journey is about winning the national championship, and you're taking the focus away from the actual games, which is, again, I mean, you're exactly right in terms of the reasoning, but boy, it's a shame where instead of, it'd be like, opening up a trade window during the NFC and AFC championship games in the Super Bowl, and you're having major trades occurring, and it takes away from the actual playoffs.
It makes, in my mind, that rationale still doesn't justify them doing it. Now they have got rid of the second one,
right?
Because what they were doing there is you would go through spring practice. I'm your starting quarterback. You worked with me through the spring. We're good to go. The second portal opens up and away I go. Now you've lost the whole spring. The purpose of that spring practice, it's gone because I'm leaving. So they have gotten rid of that. What they need to do is they need to move the portal to outside. They can start it if they want it on the 20th. The game's the 19th, open it the next day, but that has to be addressed.
No, we're going to talk about some of the rankings, but there was a story, and I've been looking forward to talking to you about it because this week it was a major story in college football involving Damon Williams Jr., the quarterback at the University of Washington.
Okay.
Well, 8 days ago, he signed a contract with Washington to return for his junior year. And then a couple of days later, earlier this week, he reversed course and he announced Tuesday night he was going to enter the transfer portal. This was days after he had signed this deal for roughly $4 million. And it was done. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and there are some rumors on what these reasons are, he said he was going to go into the portal. He never officially went into the portal, but what happened is his agents were totally against this. They were not part of this. And they said, we're done. We're done.
They
with
negotiated it.
We're severing our ties. He did not officially get in because Washington said, no, we're not going to do that. We got a contract, and that could lead to court cases. And apparently, the stories that I saw, that Williams talked to a few other folks. There's been people that have sued. Remember, Wisconsin had an athlete who went to Miami just a year ago, a similar kind of situation.
Sure.
But then by Thursday night, he decided, well, I'm coming back. I've changed my mind. This is the place for me. Well, I think he realized, because apparently there's some language that he may have been on the hook for that $4 million, that if he was going to try to leave. But the thing that also stands out is the thought that I got Williams, when he first came out of high school, he originally was going to go to Ole Miss.
Okay.
And who was the coach at Ole Miss? Lane Kiffin.
Sure.
And then he's now at Louisiana State. And the thought is that even after he signed this contract, that Lane Kiffin and the folks at LSU were dangling maybe $6 million. So he decided, well, I'm going to open it up here again. Even though last Friday I had signed, everybody was all happy after the weekend. And then, but the thing was that if he had not decided to come back, it looked like, because basically the story I said that I read, he was told, well, either you go back to Washington or you probably have to take this to the Supreme Court. But I mean, it just shows how crazy this is. The portal opened just, I think, last Thursday or Friday. He signed on this new contract. By Tuesday, he's saying, I'm going out into the portal. By Thursday, he's back. This is, I think, one of the stories that says, this is nuts. That makes me say, and I don't know whether you agree or not, that they have to find a way to have some sort of collective bargaining agreement to have some rules on this.
Well, yeah, I think they're without collective bargaining, it's very difficult to have this stand on court cases.
Yeah.
Because how many times are you going to go to court? The NCAA is a governing body. I don't know their ability to tell LSU that's tampering.
That's exactly right.
Because what LSU is going to say, hey, we can't control what these kids, they all talk to each other. They all access to social media. So things get communicated. So knowing Kiffin and knowing, at least on the surface, knowing him, it wouldn't surprise me.
His wonderful reputation.
Yeah, well, that guy, every place he's left, it's been a disaster. That somebody reached out to him, so there's no direct trail back to LSU, but you can bet there is a trail back to LSU. So, yeah, I'm with you, Chad. They had said revenue sharing would be the university, the athletic department. NIL would be this college sports commission that they're establishing, would track NIL, and the NCAA would get some kind of handle on the portal. So they were trying to take a 3 administrative approach to dealing with the portal, NIL, and revenue sharing. But based on their history, I'm not very confident.
One other quick question I got for you, and I don't know, I doubt you even know this because I have no idea. I was thinking about all this when I was reading those stories, and back in the day, you'd have to worry about kids becoming academically ineligible.
Right.
Is that even possible anymore? I mean, do they have to? Maybe because if you're paying a guy $4 million to be your quarterback, what are the odds they're going to say, well, you're academically ineligible?
I think that the last time I heard anybody say anything about GPA or, your graduation rate, I don't know. Wisconsin mentioned something. Fickle mentioned something about his GPA, his kids performing. But you just don't hear about that. And Chad, I think that what they do is they take courses that,
well, yeah, I mean, it's almost a rhetorical question because if you're paying somebody $4 million, there's no way you're not going to say, hey, you're going to class instead of going to play football. No, we're paying you to come here to play football. So it's the whole system is completely blown up from what we grew up on. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard to know and to evaluate what this all means because the people that are doing it yet, they don't know where it's going. I mean, it changes almost monthly that there's something else coming down the pike.
All right, so we're into the window.
We are.
So what are we seeing here?
Well,
who's winning in the portal battle?
Well, I'm looking at, I'm on, if you go to the site, I've got 2 things up there. One is 24/7 and the other one is on 3. ESPN does not rank teams in the portal. they keep track of where they're going, but they rank individuals in the portal. We don't do that. We're more team oriented than, we don't have a big enough staff to do the kids. So we do the teams, which is stressing us. But right now, Texas Tech has signed 14 players, 21 have left, but the players they're bringing in from when they emerged from high school are higher ranked. And so it's a positive thing for what they've lost. In other words, kids that are leaving were not playing much and are trying to get to a place where they can play. And the kids that are coming in have been very successful. Texas Tech right now, as you know, has like during the I want to say prohibition, but during the depression, I'm trying to say, I know in Germany they had wheelbarrows that they put money in so they could buy bread. That's kind of what this is becoming. It is an absolute money grab, and you're getting these high performing players to jump ship and come to Texas Tech. So they're one.
By the way, real fast, I saw actually in terms of this whole system again, they got the quarterback from Cincinnati.
Yes.
Apparently, the quarterback from Cincinnati had to pay a $1 million buyout to be able to leave, which is, again, insanity. But continue.
Yeah, it used to be, right? They used to be laundry money.
I know.
Yeah, now that's a little more. You could buy the laundromat. Indiana is 2. Last night, Indiana, 22 starters, 16 of them were in the portal. Right. So
that's how you build your program.
That's it. At least your starters.
Yeah.
Your backups can be kids that you're developing out of high school
until they leave in the portal.
Yeah. Then when they get better, they're gone or they're not playing.
Right.
Enough.
Exactly.
So the idea of player development is really now a work in progress. Then we got Louisville, A&M, Virginia Tech, Purdue, good for them, Ole Miss, Houston, West Virginia, and rounding out the top 10 would be Oklahoma State, who needs players. Right. They had over 40-some guys leave.
But who is number 11?
Number 11, I was going there, is Wisconsin.
Because I know the folks here in this state need a little optimism about whether or not this program can turn it around.
Well, they've got 1 4-star coming in, and they've got, if I'm reading this right, 21 3-stars. The thing is with these kids, they're proven talent. They've played, and Fickle looked at him, saw him in the portal. Then you look at, obviously, your needs. You're not necessarily taking the best players in the portal. You're trying to fill slots. And so they're certainly up there. Right now, they're 11th. Now, if you go to a couple other sites, they're higher. I saw one site, they were as high as 3rd. And that was related, Chad, more to the number of kids they had coming in than necessarily the depth. Now, here's an interesting one. Notre Dame had like 17, 18 kids leave, and no one has entered the transfer portal on the entering Notre Dame. Now, they have a hard time, Notre Dame does, with the academics, so we're back to that. At least there is that, of getting undergrads in. Getting a graduate student for them is easy, but getting undergrads sometimes can be a problem. And I know they wanted that receiver from Michigan State. They did not get him. And I know they're trying to get a defensive tackle from Alabama, but nonetheless, they have none. So it'd be interesting. And the portal is open till next Saturday. Okay. So we didn't do ours yet because we'll wait for it to get done.
Very, very interesting indeed. But it's not. I know that for somebody like yourself, it's not still about the portal, all about the portal. There still is high school recruiting. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because, again, as you said, you gotta do probably well in both in order to be at the top level of the sport. But
we know from Kirby complaining, he's personally called us up. Kirby will complain to anybody to listen about his depth. And, one of the things that the portal has really blown up is your depth. So I think more and more coaches, Chad, are looking at the high school, for player development, if they can keep them and have them as your backups, your second and third string kids that you need to work in during a game, and you're absolutely going to need them because of the injurious nature of this sport.
All right, so we'll talk about the high school recruiting, how it's going for some of these programs coming up next. We need to take a timeout, and then we'll be back with more Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
Choose an agency with true 5G coverage. Advantage Insurance of Wausau. Great companies, great agents, great service, great rates, and great claims results. At Advantage Insurance, they support our local community and back you always. Call Advantage Insurance today for all of your insurance needs, or go to AdvantageInsuranceWausau.com. They offer top-rated coverage and the best agents that provide you a true 5G experience for the best total coverage for all your insurance needs.
Chief, we've got a situation.
What is it?
Trouble at the naval base, sir. I'll put it on the screen.
Jiminy Christmas, what happened to all our boat covers?
That's not the worst of it, sir.
No!
Afraid so, sir.
Not the boat upholstery, too. All those holes? It looks like Swiss cheese.
It's funny you mention that, sir. We found the culprit.
All right, Mouse, who are you working for? The Russians? Take him to the brig and get Agent Dwayne from CIA on the horn now. Dwayne's covered off. Dwayne speaking. Agent Dwayne, your country needs you. A terrorist mouse has chewed up every single boat cover and piece of upholstery in the Navy.
I'll patch up what I can and replace what I can.
Agent Dwayne, you're a great American.
Just doing my job.
Boat covers, seat upholstery, camper, deck, or patio awnings. When you need something covered or upholstered, call the CIA. Dwayne's Cover It All. Commercial accounts are welcome. Call or email Dwayne. Visit Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com.
Tommy's Express Car Wash at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston has the tools and experience to keep your car clean inside and out. Our wash packages let you pay for the services you want, including Tommy Garden Body Wax, wheel cleaning and tire gloss, an underbody flush and spot-free rinse. Give your vehicle the cleaning it deserves at Tommy's Express at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston.
It takes a lot to impress us at Jim Krishock Jewelers. I mean, we see gorgeous diamonds, gemstones, and incredible jewelry every day that we've chosen for our selection. But when a diamond jewelry line like this one comes along, well, our eyes really widen up and our mouths drop open and our hearts beat a little faster. Yours will too when you stop in and check out our Fire and Ice collection of diamonds and diamond jewelry. Their slogan is bigger, brighter, whiter. And it's a difference you can see, which is the most important. Each Fire and Ice diamond is cut to maximize the performance of light coming into and leaving the diamonds to create amazing sparkle and brilliance. So whether you're planning on getting engaged or upsizing your current diamond, or just want something completely new with more sparkle and dazzle than you've ever seen before, stop in and check out our Fire and Ice collection. It's exclusively available right here at Jim Krishock Jewelers at our one and only location on Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Joe Raider Towing in Wausau offers 24-hour-a-day towing, blackout service, and roadside assistance throughout central Wisconsin. You can count on Joe Raider's experienced team to get to you fast. Family owned and operated. When you need a tow, call Joe at 715-212-4762.
The Intermission Bar, located in the heart of downtown Wausau, is a warm, friendly, comfortable spot to enjoy time with old friends and meet new ones as well. Free live music 3 nights a week featuring some of the Midwest's finest talent. The Intermission, a social establishment.
And welcome back. It is Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app and at YouTube, youtube.com, and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes. And also quickly, Sully, got to remind folks, especially as we get close to the end of the season, that that website is there all year long. Sully's collegefootballpage.com. All that information, what we're talking about here with the portal and the recruiting rankings, results, stats for
It's all there.
everybody,
Yep.
for hundreds of schools, is all right there.
And we blog throughout the year. And, in fact, the Big Ten, what they call their helmet schedule, is out. And what that refers to is they have identified who's playing who. They just don't have all the dates yet. But I looked at the Badgers' non-conference schedule, and they've got a big game, at Lambeau to open the season next year versus Notre Dame. And then they play Western Illinois, so they play an FCS opponent second. And then they go back to a group of 5. They play Eastern Michigan. So I like that, Chad, on our site. When you are playing against a Power 4 non-conference opponent, it's gold or yellow. And when it's a group of 5, it's green. When it's when it's an FCS, a 63 scholarship, as opposed to 105, it's blue. And so I did that, not because people need crayons. I did it so at a glance, you could kind of get the sense of who people are playing. And I have to tell you, Indiana, for the 3rd year in a row, is not playing a Power 4 non-conference opponent in the pre-conference schedule, which aggravates me because you'd like to see the Big Ten line up and do well against the other conferences. And when you got the number 1 team in the country not doing that, it's a little disappointing.
Yep, that is definitely one thing to keep an eye on. Especially, it would be interesting to keep an eye on if that philosophy changes, because you know it as well that sometimes there's a lag when it comes to scheduling.
Oh, yeah, there can be.
So
sure.
that can be a problem as well. But let's talk a little bit about the high school recruiting, because it's not the same level of importance as it used to be by any stretch of the imagination, is it?
No, I think the free agency in the NFL is kind of the portal, and then the draft is kind of the recruiting. And so when you look at it, and I got to tell you, my son has been on me for several years now to change our format. What we do is take 3 sites for 4 years. He is saying we should do 4 sites for 3 years, because his point, and he's not wrong, is that a lot of the guys that got you that very high ranking by the 4th year are no longer on the roster. They've either left in the portal or they've gone to the league. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to add on 3 next year, or another reputable site that does recruiting, and we're going to go 4 sites, 3 years. And I think, Chad, that'll be a little more accurate in terms of who's still actually on the roster.
All right. Well, let's talk about, because the names are different. That's one thing that's very noticeable when it becomes between the portal rankings and the high school rankings. And frankly, the high school recruiting rankings tend to be the same as we've seen over a number of years, aren't they?
Yeah. This was the first year in 20 years that the SEC didn't have a top-ranked recruiting class. That somebody, on our site anyway, where people, over that 4 sites or 4 years, 3 sites, it was always the SEC. And if you look, if you go to Sully's college football page and you go to the recruiting, icon on the menu bar, you'll see the first 3 are number 1, Alabama, number 2, Georgia, number 3, Texas, and then 4 and 5 come the Big Ten, Ohio State and Oregon. Now, Penn State was always in that top 10 or hanging. This year, they were like 45th. Now, there's another recruiting window yet open where you can still sign, or a signing window, I should say. So that could change, but most of these kids are already signed. And so, for a team like Penn State, they're going to use that portal to fill gaps of people that have left. Because
they're filling gaps with all these Iowa State players. I don't know if you noticed that. A lot of them.
Yes, and so there's a familiarity there. And, that gets them a step up.
Real quick, I got to ask you this because you being Mr. College Football, I get a bad taste in my mouth when a guy like Matt Campbell not only leaves a job, but then guts his program. I'm not a big fan of that. And I understand it. I understand the kids want to play for the guy that they went to play for. But at the same time, it just feels like, okay, it's one thing to leave your job. I mean, it almost feels like there should be some, I don't know. The idea of a gentleman's agreement is ridiculous, but I just have a bad taste about something like that.
I think that we're throwbacks, we're going back in time, because I think these people see this as now a business.
Oh, yeah.
And
right.
you've got, highly trained people that you can bring with you that put you a little bit ahead, and they do it. And it's, I've heard coaches say, stay here, stay at your university. But that's really up to the players. They can go in the portal, and then when they're in the portal, if they make that decision, then it's incumbent on you to say, hey, can this guy, because I'll tell you what, not everybody that plays at Iowa State can be a contributing factor at Penn State when you look at Penn State expectations compared to Iowa State's. Different reality here. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I would have said that squared about those James Madison kids coming, and man, they sure came and hit that with the bang.
You're right. What else jumps out? Anything particular with the high school recruiting?
Miami has been consistently moving up, and here they are. So, if you look at the teams that were in the playoffs this year, Alabama, right there first. Georgia was in it, their second. Texas was not in the playoffs, in their third. Ohio State in the playoffs. Oregon in the playoffs. LSU fired their coach, not in the playoffs, in their sixth. Notre Dame. We talked about the fact that Notre Dame wasn't in this show? Yeah, we covered that. Miami in the playoff. Another colossal failure by this is SC. They're ninth. They did not get in. And then Oklahoma 10. So I'm looking at the top 10 recruiting programs this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 10 were in the playoffs, and you're taking 12 teams. So a pretty good representation if you're recruiting in the top 10.
So I guess the bottom line there is that anybody who says that high school recruiting is not important, I mean, you can say maybe it's not at the same level it was, but boy, it's still very much so an indicator of ultimately who does make the playoff.
And I would say this too, I'm 100% aligned with you there. And the portal, the position that's being really coveted now is quarterback. And there are a lot of quarterbacks in the portal. And Chad, if you're doing a good job of recruiting high school players who are good enough to play right away or can plug in right away, and you go to the portal and you get yourself a 4-star quarterback, somebody who's been highly efficient, you're going to be effective immediately. For instance, the Final Four this year, all of those quarterbacks were portal guys, every one of them.
All right. So anything else you want to add here about the high school rankings before we move on?
Well, I lost it here.
I think you kind of hit on the big things, but
yeah.
Anything else before we wrap up this segment?
Yeah, just a couple of issues with this. Texas Tech has been moving up. They're number 1 in the portal. Now they're 25th. So you can look for that program to continue to improve. North Carolina was the 20th best recruiting program. So you wonder what that means for Belichick in the coming year. How they do in the portal now, and then their recruiting has been on the rise. So you wonder, is that going to translate next year to a little better performance for them? And then, of course, Auburn is another mystery. They're the 16th best recruiting program in the country, and that's over 4 years, mind you. And yet the performance, they have been bowl eligible.
Well, I'm actually a little surprised. Well, I guess not surprised because, I mean, frankly, if you're in the SEC, it doesn't matter whether you're at the top or the bottom, you're still going to be somewhat high. I mean, 16th nationally is not really that great in the SEC. But the problem Auburn has is they just don't have any stability anymore. They churn through coaches at a lot higher rate than many of these programs do, don't they?
Yeah, and I think they really thought that Hugh Freeze was going to be the answer. He was going to get these things done, and simply did not. So, and then with Brian Harsin, that turned out to be a real bad fit. A guy from, out west, Boise, coming in, and it just didn't work. So, hopefully this time they'll get this right.
All right, so that's a check of what's happening with recruiting. Again, later on, we will delve into the games themselves in the college football playoff. But coming up next, a recap of what's happened with the Big Ten Conference as they get close to the end of the line with one more Big Ten team still in there, with Indiana still playing. But that's coming up next here on Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
I only travel once or twice a year, but when I do, I go big. Exotic places, incredible hotels, new experiences. It has to be memorable. That's why I call Travel Leaders of Wausau. They get me, and they take care of all the details, so I don't have to worry about a thing.
Travel Leaders gets you, and we get you there. Travel better. Call Travel Leaders of Wausau at 715-355-4437.
And can't forget the sandals. And the right sunglasses.
Hello, my name is Steve Brickner. Here at Brickner Motors in Little Chicago, we'll help you order your brand new Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, or Jeep and get it equipped the way you want it and the color you've always dreamed of. That means you won't overpay for something you don't want. Quality vehicles and competitive prices are what keep people coming back again and again. Make the drive out to Brickner Motors on Little Chicago's northeast side and let our family take care of your family.
You can count on us. Yes, you can.
The Kuhn Hearing Center is a family-owned and operated hearing care facility located at 1699 Schofield Avenue, Suite 106 in Schofield. Dr. Tim Kuhn has been practicing audiology in the greater Wausau-Weston area for 26 years. Dr. Kuhn works closely with several audiology agencies, including Signia Hearing Aids and Accessories, which provides access to the latest and most advanced technologies in the hearing industry. For more info, check them out online at kuhnhearing.com or call 715-298-5511.
Big Fat Designs can give your company the cutting-edge look it needs to attract customers and stand out from the rest. From websites and print designs to logos and letterheads, Big Fat Designs is your effective and affordable marketing solution. E-commerce, online customer database, video and audio players, Big Fat Designs does it all. And the best part, you deal with someone locally to talk with, to meet with, working hands-on towards your success. Big Fat Designs in Wausau. Find out more online at bigfatdesigns.com.
Experience a culinary journey at Oliva's at Gulliver's Landing. Indulge in our unique supper club atmosphere and savor mouth-watering steaks, seafood, pasta, and sandwiches. Join us for an unforgettable dining experience. Oliva's at Gulliver's Landing, Gadwall Lane in Wausau.
Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, and at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes, and as we get towards the end, we're down to one more game left in the college football season. Time to take a step back, maybe take a look at the big picture when it has come to some of the conferences. We'll start with the Big Ten, especially on the bowl side. And for the most part, and I would say not just for the most part, but I think it's fairly obvious, it's been a rather successful bowl season for the Big Ten Conference.
It really has. They so far they have been involved in 14 games in the bowl season, including the playoffs, and they have won 10. So they're 10-4. Now, one of the things that, when I'm online, some of the SEC people are quick to point out that 4 of those wins in the bowl season were against group of 5 teams. So they're, and in the next segment, we're going to take a look at the regular season, and we can see how the Big Ten and the SEC did when they lined it up against Power 4. But nonetheless, these group of 5 teams, whether it's Boise or James Madison, Chad, they're quite capable of going into the Big Ten, the SEC, and beating some of those bottom end teams. They could go and certainly play right with them. So beating them, okay, yeah, I get it. It's a group of 5, but nonetheless, the elite of the group of 5 are in the bowl season.
Absolutely. And I guess, the Big Ten Conference, and actually, I've been actually seeing some notes about, the whole hierarchy of college football. Because it's always been the SEC. It's been that way for a long time. Now with them not making the championship game, I think for 3 years in a row, where does the Big Ten? I mean, does this add another maybe a little bit of a post to put that maybe the Big Ten is the best conference in college football?
Well, you can start to make that argument. I would have said to you, the Big Ten is as good or better. When you're looking at Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, for the most part, they struggled a little bit of recent, but still Michigan is there. Penn State is there. SC is on the rise. Now, when you look at the SEC, you're talking Alabama, Georgia, A&M, Texas, okay, all really good programs. The argument has been that in the middle towards the bottom, the SEC is better. But I'm starting to question that, at least the last couple of years. Illinois beat South Carolina, and you and I were talking last year. People were saying they should have got into the tournament because they were playing so well. South Carolina was. This year, Illinois beat Tennessee. Iowa, who's kind of in that upper middle part of the Big Ten, beat Vandy, who was one of the top teams in the SEC this year. So what I'm saying, Chad, is that middle of the conference is starting to change a little bit. And I think in part, the Big Ten is eroding, as are the ACC and the Big 12. The SEC's 2s and 3s, they're not there anymore. And so when they have to move people out, or if they, during the course of a game, or if they have injuries and have to plug in, they're not the same as they were. And NIL, contrary to what I think you and I may have thought, it was the rich are going to get richer. It hasn't been that way. In fact, the rich have been somewhat depleted because people are coming in and shopping their 2s and 3s.
It's always interesting, I think, when you talk about, the best conferences, that I don't think you can always just focus on the top anyways. I think it has a lot to do with that second tier. And I think the Big Ten is very strong, maybe not as strong as it actually potentially could be. I mean, you look at teams like Illinois and Iowa, who had, I think, very good years, but I think for the Big Ten to truly have that almost no doubt about it feel, teams like Nebraska and Wisconsin have to be better.
There is no reason why Wisconsin should not be back in that second tier. So in other words, if you and I, we were to agree that it's Ohio State, it's Indiana, it's Oregon, it's Penn State, and for argument's sake, SC pops in my head. Okay, sure. So those 5. Then you're going to say, okay, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and then where would you go? Would you go to a Minnesota? Would you go out east?
I mean, Minnesota's been sort of, I would call them in that second tier because they've been consistent enough in terms of that.
And so as those teams improve, and they have been improving, it's closing the gap, the talent gap. The top of those conferences, I would have in the past given the nod to the SEC at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. Now, no, I think the Big Ten is as good or better than the SEC at the top, and they're closing the gap in the middle, in my opinion.
I do think that when the biggest thing that the SEC has going for it is the fact that I think below the top teams that they're better. I think when we see the Vandy's, I think even at the bottom, I think you look at Mississippi State, who I think is taking strides forward.
Sure they have.
You don't see. I mean, it truly is an arms race. I mean, because you can't be anything but all in. I mean, Kentucky's had their ups and downs, but they fired their most successful coach, Justin Nord, and I saw that they got a couple of big gets, I think, in the portal too. So I mean, it just feels like when you get a little deeper to the Big Ten, it gets a little bit, the weakness starts to show a little bit
It
more
gets a
than
little
it does
thinner.
in the SEC.
Yeah, I agree. And, I do believe that teams like Missouri and, this year with Vandy, Vandy would be the best story in college if it wasn't for Indiana.
Yeah.
Because you've got two, perennial doormats who now are in the mix. Indiana, of course, is at the top of the hill right now, and Vandy is climbing. One of the other things that was interesting to me was when people were talking about A&M. I know you're a critic of the size of these conferences and where they're at geographically. And I want to tell you, my brother Pat is right there with you. He does not like the all-coast conferences you call the ACC, or the fact that SC and UCLA are in the Big Ten. But when you look at A&M this year, and I've talked to you and I have spoke to this, they didn't play Alabama. They didn't play Georgia. They didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play OU. They didn't play Vandy. And so, we were kind of saying they're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. And I would say to you, they didn't play the top 5 teams in their own league. Then they eventually played Texas and lost. So, that speaks to a couple of things. The vastness of these conferences, the strength of the SEC, and the number of teams you depending on the draw, how conference games are assigned, you can have a much easier time and significantly easier than another conference team.
You're exactly right on that account. Hey, we're going to delve a little more deeply into some of these conferences, and that's one thing your site does. It does delve deeply into some of these numbers.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about these Power 4 conferences in terms of how they did against each other and against other Group of 5 and the FCS and everything else coming up next to maybe allow folks to make their own decision on who really is the best conference in college football right now.
And Chad, there's math in this, so I'm applying my Catholic school math, so you're gonna have to tune in on this.
All right, everybody, get those calculators out, because that's coming up as we continue here on Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
Thinking about changing to organic or natural foods? Then you need to stop at Red Clover Market at the Total Rental location in Weston. Family-owned Red Clover Market, your healthy natural food store. Open Monday through Saturday. Looking for a part for your vehicle? Look to Hilltop Auto Wrecking in Wausau. Hilltop Auto Wrecking can help you find just about any part you need for your car, truck, or SUV. They have a great selection of auto glass and tires with lots of sizes ready to go. Hilltop Auto Wrecking is always looking to buy vehicles, so if you're stuck with an older junker, they can haul it away for cash. Hilltop Auto Wrecking, family owned and operated for over 40 years at 237-934 Del Rio Road, formerly 6806 North 33rd Street, Wausau. Call 715-675-3258.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services. Whether you need offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing, they print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small. So give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
Since 1981, Lopno's has been Wausau's favorite sports bar. Grab a bit of Wausau's past while you're watching your favorite sports teams at their historic turn-of-the-century establishment. Lopno's is the perfect place to catch all the sports action on their 15 enormous flat-screen TVs, enjoy a night on the town with friends, or have a celebration in their private party room. A great place for birthdays, anniversaries, clubs, or meetings. Lopno's, Wausau's oldest and finest sports bar, 3rd Street, Wausau.
For over 40 years, Champion Insurance has been helping business owners protect themselves. They also offer protection for your home, auto, and other personal assets as well. Local family owned and operated. Champion Insurance. They got you covered. Schofield Avenue, Schofield.
Come on down to Cheeks Bar and Grill on East Wausau Avenue in Wausau. Open for dine-in or takeout Tuesday through Friday, 2 p.m. till close. Saturday, 12 p.m. till close. Sunday, 12 until 8 p.m. Check them out on Facebook, and we hope to see you at Cheeks Bar and Grill in Wausau.
And welcome back. Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO. Sully, along with Chad Holmes. And so you were just explaining some of the numbers to me, and I got to say my mind is already exploding because there's a lot to it, but it's going a little deeper because, I mean, you said it. I mean, you got the Big Ten commissioner actually using these kind of numbers to try to argue, and all these conferences use these kind of numbers to argue, you know, in terms of like how many berths they should be getting in the college football playoff and everything. So it is not something that is just an academic exercise. It's actually very vital to what these conferences are able to accomplish.
And what we've done in this segment, we took the 4 Power 4 conferences, which would be the ACC, the Big 12. And what we're going to do on the air here is we're going to focus on the Big 10 and the SEC. But I would encourage you to go to Sully's college football page, and all these numbers are right there for you. And given my my ability to explain math to you, may be somewhat severely limited. So we'll do what we can here. Chad will assist. But I'd encourage you to go on the site and look at what's written there, and then you'll be able to take a moment and get it.
All right, let's start with the Big Ten in terms of some of these numbers. Let's lay it out first and what jumps out.
Okay. First of all, the Big Ten plays 9 conference games. Okay. So when you take 18 teams in the Big Ten, which I know you love.
By the way, I'm going to say it real fast just to get it off my chest. If you only had 10 teams, then everybody would be playing everybody. We'd have a true conference championship.
You know
champion.
What? I can do that 10 factor much better than 18. I can tell you that.
But continue.
All right. So now, if you take the 18 and you times that by the 3 non-conference games they play a total of 12, and 9 of them are conference, which means as a conference, the Big Ten plays 54 non-conference games. All right. Of those 54, the Big Ten elected to schedule 14 Power 4 programs. All right. So we're good there. That means about 31% of the time, the Big Ten was lining up against Power 4 opponents. Now, this year, the Big Ten went 7-7 in the regular season, contrasting that with 10-4 in the bowl season. All right. So now, in against a group of 5, because remember, we got that 54 non-conference number, they played 26 group of 5 teams, and they went 23-3. They lost 3 games to group of 5 teams. And then they played FCS, the football, championship subdivision 14 times, and they went 14-0 against them. So overall, in the non-conference schedule, the Big Ten went 44-10, and they won 81% of their games. All right. So any thoughts jump out?
Well, one thing that jumps out obviously is that you can always go deeper than the numbers on who you play. I mean, because even if they're FCS opponents, there are differences in the types of FCS opponents and a group of 5 opponents as well. Also, many of the games for these conferences, they tend to be at home as well. So it's like, how many of the games, especially when you face the Power 4, how many of those games are on the road? So again, boy, I mean, you could get into a rabbit hole so very easily with numbers like this, can't you?
Yeah, because and if you remember back in August, you and I were complaining about Northwestern playing Tulane and then playing them down in New Orleans. What are you going down there for? Get them up to Evanston.
But in the end, it probably again, you can look at it so many different ways. Probably in the end, playing a game like that probably helped Northwestern in terms of the season that they had.
Well, they made a bowl. They won. Well, I think they were 7-5.
It may not have been a great game that day, but sometimes, as a coach all these years, you know that sometimes those losses can be some of the biggest games that you have early in the season.
Well, you test yourself. You are used to playing. I always thought when we go down. When I was at Newman and we go down to the tournament and we would play Milwaukee or Pius or Thomas More, Dominican, any of those teams, they always had an advantage because even if we were really good, they played teams that were as good or better than us down there.
Right.
Where we played nobody like them. So there is that. Going down and playing that game in the end may have been a good thing. I was just trying to get Northwestern in a bowl.
No,
you know?
and yet they still got there. So again, that was a good year. But now SEC. How do those numbers compare with the SEC?
Okay, if you remember, we talked about the Big Ten playing 54 games. Now, the SEC plays 8 conference games. All right, and the fact is they do have fewer teams, 16 to 18, but because they play 4 non-conference games per team as opposed to the Big Ten's 3, they ended up this year playing 64 non-conference games to the Big Ten's 54. So 19 times or 30%, slightly less than the Big Ten was at 31. Here's where the SEC chumps up chest thumps.
Mm-hmm.
They were 13-6 against Power 4 to the Big Ten 7-7. But then that goes back to what you were talking about. Who'd you play? Mm-hmm. Which of those? Who were they? All right. So now they played 30 group of 5 to the Big Ten's 26. They went 28-2. So they lost just 2 games to group of 5 teams. And then they played everybody but Texas, played 1 FCS team. So they went 15-0. All right. So now if you look at them, their overall record was 56-8-8. And they won 88% of their non-conference games to the Big Ten's 81. So advantage there, SEC, unless you want to create confusion, Chad, which I know you like, but you're absolutely right. Who were they?
Right.
You know, were you playing Northwestern or were you playing Ohio State? Were you playing Alabama or were you playing Mississippi State?
Right.
So it certainly varies.
And then the Big 12 conference. And now we get to the other conferences who are trying to, I think just keep up as best they can with this juggernaut of the Sankey Petiti groups. But the Big 12 conference, in terms of what they did, I mean, in terms of the Power 4, they didn't do too bad.
No, they like the Big Ten, they play 9 conference games. So you had 16 teams. With the 3 conference games, you had 32, you had 48. They played 18 of those 48 games were against Power 4 teams, and they went 11-7. So they had a pretty good record, like the SEC, better than the Big Ten in those games. And they played 15 group of 5 teams. They went 12-3, and then they played 15 FCS teams, and they went 15-0. In fact, this is the first year, Chad, that I have seen the Power 4 not lose a game.
Swept them
to the FCS because the ACC they went 16-0. So every time they lined up against an FCS opponent,
16-0 total.
Yeah, there you have it. Yes, they did not lose a game. But here's the argument that I think Petiti was trying to make to Sankey. He was saying, look, we play 162 conference games, plus we play 14 Power 4 non-conference. That means we line it up against Power 4 teams 176 times. He said to Sankey, you play 128 conference games. Now, remember, whenever you play a conference game, Big Ten that's a Power 4 opponent.
Right.
All right, so you're at 128, and then you've got 19. So they played 147 Power 4 opponents to the Big Ten's 176. So about 30 more times the Big Ten was getting in with better teams, better players, bigger, stronger, faster guys. And that's what that's what Petiti, the Big Ten guy, was telling Stanky, the SEC guy, you got to go to 9 games. And then, of course, you and I talked about that. The coaches said, no, the Sargon rating system says our schedules are already harder. And so we're not doing that. Well, then ESPN shows up, and you and I addressed this, $80 million. Stanky suddenly goes back and tells you, boys, we're going to 9 games because you're going to get 3.1 to 5.0 million more to play that 9th game.
Yeah. And then finally, the All Coast Conference, as I like to call it, the ACC, and they got some work to do.
Yeah, that conference, I think, that phone of mine always going off.
I thought I was going nuts here for a moment.
It's supposed to be a sci-fi. It sounds like the haunted house.
I was getting scared here.
Yeah.
Maybe because talking about the ACC, all of a sudden it got some scary numbers to talk about here.
Yeah. So they play 136 conference games. And I'll tell you the thing about the ACC, they played 31 Power 5 opponents or Power 4 opponents. They play more than anybody, when you look at, because they always get those 5 Notre Dame games, which are factored in. So they would have been at 24. They've got 17 teams. And so you can read their numbers, but they definitely, of all the conferences, they are the weakest, I think, of the Power 4.
So I guess as we put it all together, and again, there's a lot of numbers to be able to put all together. I think in a lot of ways, what we were talking about earlier does come to be. Where is this coming from?
I don't know. I'm going to throw this thing out.
I know. So, but
I guess my end.
I guess bottom line is that again, it just shows that the Big Ten and the SEC, by the numbers, are deservedly considered the top conferences.
Yeah, they are. I mean, when you look at it, one of the games that I thought was really a slap in the face for the Big Ten this year is when TCU took down USC. USC should not have lost that game. And, Lincoln Riley got beat up. I mean, I know people don't follow that like we do, but, when you read on the boards, the SEC boards, they were outraged by the fact that TCU beat them. So, and then, the ACC, who's in the national championship? Miami is an ACC team, and they are there. They went through that league. They lined up against some pretty good teams. Ole Miss beat them, and they beat Notre Dame earlier in the year. So when you look at what they've accomplished, Clemson, prior years, and now Miami is back. And we've talked about it, Chad. If Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State did what Florida State, Miami, and Clemson, falling off like they have, the Big Ten would be in big trouble. But the powers that be did not slack off. In fact, they got better.
And I guess the ACC can say, well, despite all the numbers, we still got one of the final 2 left. So
yeah, in the end, where do you want to be? You want to be in the 10, and we are.
Coming up, we got another hour to go. We'll talk about the college football playoff and what's going on there. And then finally, coming up next, actually, we're going to go a little deeper than those Big 4 conferences, the Power 4, and add those group of 5 and see how they've been doing in terms of the postseason as well. So another hour to go here on Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO.
Buck Welsh has been working in the golf business since 1976, became a PGA member in 1984, and has been teaching for over 40 years. His philosophy has always been to work with the individual golfer, building on the way they do things and making them better with what they have to work with. Call Buck at 715-581-2646 or check out the website www.bucksgolfshop.com to get more info about lessons.
Eye Clinic of Wisconsin believes that clear vision and hearing are priceless. Eye Clinic of Wisconsin is equipped to handle all your eye and hearing care needs. When you need specialty and surgical eye care, why not work with the best? Let the team of professionals at Eye Clinic of Wisconsin see you. Eye Clinic of Wisconsin has 7 convenient locations that include Wausau, Amtigo, Medford, Merrill, Rhinelander, Stevens Point, and Wisconsin Rapids. Visit their Facebook page or website at www.eyeclinicwi.com. Eye Clinic of Wisconsin, one vision, yours.
As a proud member of the Wausau, Marathon, Edgar, and Athens communities, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home has built a reputation for having a deep commitment to personal service. When you need compassionate concern and expert guidance day or night, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home is the one to call. You can trust them to take care of every detail at a time it matters most. Located in Wausau, Marathon, Edgar, and Athens, Peterson Kramer Funeral Home, friends you've trusted and depended on since 1914. Krasowski Dental offers the most effective cosmetic and neuromuscular dentistry procedures and treatments. When you walk through the doors, you'll experience an incredibly comfortable and pleasant atmosphere where you'll be treated like family. Krasowski Dental offers 24-hour emergency service and care so you don't have to wait, and offers many of the newest dental technologies and perks to make your dental experience comfortable and less stressful. Schedule your appointment now with Krasowski Dental, North 17th Avenue, Wausau.
Don't you just love a good football game? Don't you just love a new car or a new truck or a new motorcycle? And don't you just love saving money? Then you'll love Clover Belt Credit Union, your go-to team for saving money with a great rate vehicle loan. Great rates are what make Clover Belt the leader in vehicle loans. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, ATVs. If it's got a motor and it rolls on wheels, Clover Belt Credit Union has the great rate financing you want. Give us a call and we'll get your great rate loan rolling. Clover Belt Credit Union, your team for great rates.
The Dirks Group started in 1999 as an alternative to traditional IT service providers. From the start, they focused on customized solutions for the needs of each client. Today, they serve over 400 customers from locations in Wausau and Eau Claire. Go to dirksgroup.com for more information.
Charity's Bar in Marathon City. Great food, great service, a great place to meet friends. Come on down and watch the game or just hang out. It's Charity's Bar on County Road and in Marathon City.
Witness the difference at Newman Catholic Schools, where education is embraced by the Christian faith and students are held to a high standard of academic excellence. Schedule a tour and learn what it means to be a Newman Catholic Cardinal. Visit newmancatholicschools.com to learn more.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.
Sully's College Football page on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app and on YouTube, youtube.com, and the 98.9 WXCO channel. Penultimate week. We're down to this week and then next week, and then that's the end of the season, isn't it?
You know, and I say this often, it doesn't seem that long ago that we were here. It was
summer.
It was the 23rd of August, and we had this all in front of us.
Now we're looking out in the
Now
snow
we're
plows.
looking out. We got the snow outside, and it just goes by so quickly, Ted. These 22 weeks. You know, we're doing this for all or part of 6 months, you know, because we're starting in August and we're ending in January. So there you have
as
it.
we get older, it gets faster and faster and faster.
It seems to, yes.
Well, let's take a look at, because we talked a lot about the Power Four, but that's not the only conferences. We got the Group of Five as well, part of the bowl season. And it's always interesting because these conferences do look at this as if they're able to get more wins and losses as a source of pride.
Yes, you know, and the Group of Five and the Power Four, you know, we've talked about this, but it bears restating. That is not NCAA language. They don't speak that language. They would say all 9 of these conferences are FBS conferences, meaning football bowl subdivision. And that means that they have 105 equivalent scholarships, which means that if you were the coach and I'm the player, you could say, Sully, we're going to give you 60% of your scholarship will be athletic money. 20% will be academic or will be economic aid because of your family circumstance. And now we know this is hypothetical when I say to you 20% would be academic. And so you can bundle. In the past, Ted, you could never do that. And you don't have to do the 105. When it was 85 in a head count, you had to do 85 or you could lose your FBS status. The FCS, you can do up to 63, but you could not do more. You could do fewer. So there were other distinctions there. But anyway, from an NCAA standpoint, these teams, these conferences are all exactly the same in terms of classification, and that would be football bowl subdivision.
Well, looking at some of these conferences, which of the ones really jump out? What of these other group of five? Which one stood out the most for you?
Well, I got to tell you, when you do what I do and you spend as much time with these guys, they're all fun to watch. For me, I'm always interested in who's doing what. Typically, the Sun Belt is a conference that has been on the rise. They are challenging, in my opinion, the Mountain West as the second best. The American, I think, is the best. And keep in mind, the American lost BYU, they lost Cincinnati, they lost Houston, and they lost Central Florida to the Big 12. So that conference was the best. And you thought maybe not, but they have maintained it. They are still playing, with Memphis and Tulane. They're still playing South Florida athletically, which, of course, you always look crooked at me because they keep getting beat. But nonetheless, the American, fun to watch. And then, the Sun Belt and the Mountain West with teams like Boise and San Diego State. And, UNLV has been on the rise. So those teams, and that conference, by the way, is going to look much different because many of those teams are going to the Pac-12 next year. And in fact, next week, we'll talk about who's going and who's staying and such. And then, so the Mountain West, the Sun Belt, the MAC, because of its Midwest ties, Toledo, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and this year Western Michigan was arguably the best team in that league. They're always kind of the little brother of the Big Ten, And then finally, the conference that quietly may have had the best experience this year is Conference USA. They brought in Kennesaw State. They brought in Jacksonville State, which, Kennesaw State, nobody knows. That's in Georgia. And then Jacksonville State is not in Mississippi. That's Jackson State. Nor is it Florida. That's Jacksonville University. They're in Alabama. So, they brought these teams in from really good high school football playing states. And they this year in the bowl season, they did something that I've never seen them do. They had a winning season. They went 4-3 in the postseason.
Was there I mean, that's probably throw a curveball at you, but was there a bowl result that was most surprising to you?
That's a good question.
I mean, because where maybe one of those smaller conferences did pull off one over a bigger conference, or just generally a surprising result.
I thought kind of on the other side of that coin, I thought Boise would play Washington better than they did. It was like 38-7. They got popped. Nothing really jumps out at me off the top of my head, but I would say that Toledo taking on Louisville, and that game was 27-22. I watched that game because, I always liked Toledo's speed. They are one team in the MAC they always have guys that can run. Now they're in Ohio, which is a very high functioning high school football state. And they seem to attract guys that can get on the perimeter and go.
And also, I guess one question I'd ask you is that there's been all this, I think, discussion over the years in terms of how the Bulls would be able to continue at a successful rate with the expanding college football playoff. It does not seem like it really was affected adversely this year. That the Bulls were able to provide what they normally do provide.
Yeah, for me, and I know you're kind of a bowl guy too. I grew up with them. I really enjoy and look forward to them. Next year, I think, because they got till the end of this month to get this playoff format settled. And I think
that format is spooky. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, every time that comes out, that thing goes off. I thought I turned it off. Anyway, that Ole Miss Tulane game, I thought Tulane might play them a little better. They did not. And, North Texas was probably the wildest bowl game of the year when they played when North Texas played San Diego State. It was 49-47. So it was the American against the Mountain West.
Very interesting indeed. All right, so let's turn our attention back to the playoff because, again, it was a busy week with the college football playoff with games on Thursday and Friday night, and now the championship round coming up to wrap things up. So we're going to talk a bit about, again, the college football playoff coming up as we continue here on Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO.
Where did the good old days go? From going to the old A&W drive-in to cruising the strip in town, all things change. Some things stay consistent. For almost 75 years, Redant Insurance in Rib Mountain has been providing quality service to its customers. One of the oldest agencies in the area. Your family and neighbors come here. Now it's your turn. Call 715-845-9204. Click redantinsurance.com or stop by 227501 Rib Mountain Drive. Redant Insurance Agency, our family helping yours.
Tommy's Express Car Wash at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston has the tools and experience to keep your car clean inside and out. Our wash packages let you pay for the services you want, including Tommy Garden Body Wax, wheel cleaning and tire gloss, an underbody flush and spot-free rinse. Give your vehicle the cleaning it deserves at Tommy's Express at 102 Bridge Street in Wausau and 1611 Schofield Avenue in Weston. You don't have to choose between personal, hometown service, and the latest banking technology. Brokaw Credit Union has it all. Whether you're looking to finance your first home, grow your savings, or get a new set of wheels, we're here to help. Check us out at brokawcu.com. It's hard to find great Italian food in Wausau unless you're familiar with Carmelo's Italian Restaurant. Established in 1986 by the Oliva family, 3 generations still strive to provide a family atmosphere and fine dining experience. Carmelo's is proud to serve authentic Italian made with fresh ingredients. Their recipes have been handed down from generation to generation. Reservations are recommended Tuesdays through Sundays, and they are closed on Mondays. Carmelo's Italian Restaurant, located at the base of Granite Peak on North Mountain Road, Wausau. Check them out at carmelositalian.com.
Sully's college football page on 98.9 WXCO. Along with Sully, I'm Chad Holmes, and we should always also introduce Ian Welsh, because without him, we would not have the microphones on and our bumper music and the commercials. He does all the heavy lifting while we just sit here and talk.
Well, and given the fact that I don't know how to turn my cell phone off, trying to do what he does, we might be like doing some kind of alien broadcast or something before I got done with it.
Well, let's talk about the college football playoff sort of in a broad way to start, because again, it's is it the second year with this current format?
The
12-team
second
format?
year, 12 teams.
What's your overall take on what we've seen in the road to get to the championship game?
Well, I think it's a progress or something in development. With they had changed from last year where they didn't separate the seeded teams from the teams that were selected. They had teams that were ranked 13th getting a bye.
Right.
That never should have been. So they corrected that. I think there are still things to work through. Years ago when they started this, because the NCAA looked at it and said, hey, we're not doing the tournament the way you're structuring it because you're excluding 5 conferences. They're not going to get in. You're setting up. These are all FBS, as we explained, and you've created these constructs. Power 5, Group of 5. The NCAA is saying we don't speak that language, and we're going to get sued again. And every time the NCAA gets sued, they lose. And so they wanted nothing to do with it. And so in order to, not get sued, the college football playoff decided, Chad, that one of these conferences, one of the Group of 5, had to have access. So that's why that happened. It had to do with litigation and virtually nothing to do with the best teams, whether it was the best 4, the best 12, or whatever.
It's been a real mixture in terms of good games and blowouts, hasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, just generally. I mean, it's probably nothing that's out of the ordinary, but I don't know. Was there I don't know. I mean, do you think that it is what it should be, I guess, in terms of the excitement, in terms of making sure everybody is, that our college football fans are totally invested in it? Do you think that making it a 16-team tournament is going to make it more enjoyable for folks? So what's your general take about, because I think in some ways, as I get older, I don't want to become that guy screaming at the clouds, but at the same time, sometimes I think it just gets too overly focused maybe on this whole playoff thing as opposed to the whole grandeur of college football as well.
Yeah, 2 thoughts come to mind right away. Number one, the fact that somebody gets blown out does not mean they should not have gotten in.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, you get in based on your regular season play. I've seen teams who got just slobber knocked, at one point in the season, played them later in the season and beat them. So things can happen, things can change. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, Chad, is that if I remember when SC beat, it was 2005, it was Reggie and
Texas?
They beat Oklahoma. It was 55-19. Texas beat them the next year, I think, with Vince Young and those kids.
That's right.
So nobody was saying that Oklahoma didn't belong in that game.
Right.
Later on, Notre Dame got slobber knocked by Alabama, and then they shouldn't have been in. They didn't belong in. Look, those are separate things. The other thing is when a Group of 5 team gets hammered, you hear a lot of that.
Oh, and not just here. It is wailing. I guess way over the top, to be honest with you. I mean, it sounds like it's a crime against humanity that some of these teams get a chance, which is everything that the NCAA basketball tournament is.
And what did you hear about Oregon not belonging in? I didn't hear that at all, because it's a blue blood playing a blue blood, and one blue blood, blood the other one. So you didn't hear anything or you typically don't, unless of course it's Notre Dame. You don't hear about that. But you constantly do if it's James Madison or if it's Tulane. They don't belong. So personally, I think what they did was more about legal than it was about talent, getting the best teams. Ideally, I'd like to see the best 16 teams as, ranked, keep the college football, poll or committee, and then take the top 16 teams. You know, I've said this for years, and it's probably not going to happen, and I don't think you're necessarily a proponent of it.
And I know I'm not.
Okay.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I would prefer, like the FCS, the group of 5, just get a 16 or 24 team tournament and go to work and have 3 playoffs going on at this. I'd love that.
I like the idea of having a couple, at least 1 or 2. I had no issue with James Madison being in, or whether it's a Tulane we've seen in the past or whatever it may be. So I understand your aspect, but they don't take the top 68 teams for the college basketball tournament. It works pretty well.
They do not. In fact, if you remember when they increased the size of the NCAA basketball, it was when the Mountain West and WAC split, and people like the Big East and the ACC were howling at the moon that you were costing them an at-large. And of course, they pointed to Villanova the year they beat Georgetown and won it. Or whoever it was Georgetown. Yeah. They were in at large, and they were like the last team in. But nonetheless, and the reason I favor that, Chad, one last thing to be clear, it's because there are really a lot of good group of 5 teams that are never getting in this.
But you could say the exact same thing about teams that don't get in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and yet. Do you think the NCAA men's basketball tournament would be better if it was the top 68 teams that were brought in?
Probably, yeah.
You think it would be a better tournament?
Oh, I do. I think
you think it'd grab the attention of people.
Well, you know, if you say better in the sense of better teams, yes, I think so. If you're talking in terms of the excitement and the upsets and you know, David versus Goliath and all that. No, that's better the way it is. And I am fine with it. And it's 5 guys too, Ken. It's not 22 and then your special teams. You know, so I just think too many group of 5 teams get left out.
I'm going to ask you another question because I'm kind of peaked here now.
Okay.
We're gonna pretend here that you get your way. There's a 16 team tournament that is the top 16 teams. Would you think it would be a great tournament if there's 7 or 8 teams from the SEC one year? Do you think that a 7th place team should be in a tournament like that where it's 16 teams? It's not like a 68 team where you almost have to go deeper. But if it's a 16 team tournament, well, we just got to make sure we have 7 teams because they are truly the best. Or if let me be a real out of the box thinker here. Let's say this whole new system, this new world of college football, college athletics takes us down a road where, for whatever reason, the Big Ten doesn't keep up with the SEC.
Okay,
let's have 12 teams for the SEC in the tournament. Would that, because theoretically it could be where 12 of the best 16 teams are truly from one conference. Would that be a good thing? I don't think so.
If you're saying.
But let's say 7, but because I think that guys like Sankey and Petiti are going to be saying, well, we should get 6 and 6, and then maybe the other conference get 4. You know, at the very least, that wouldn't be good.
Well, you know,
I know I'm not trying to put you on a spot here, but I'm just trying to. I am trying to fight for the little guy here.
I'm thinking that. You've put so many scenarios.
I know.
7 or 12. Look at,
but I guess the point being is these teams have an opportunity to prove themselves during the regular season. If all you can do is be the 6th or 7th best team in your conference, why should you get a chance to play for a national championship?
Because you're one of the 16 best in the country.
That's a good answer. I know that. But
and I don't know that would happen. You know, this year. You're never going to convince me, not that you've tried, but that the SEC should have had 5 teams. They should not have had 5 teams, in my opinion.
But the thing about it as well is there's a group of 4, right? A group of 4?
Yes.
So there's 4 conferences. That will be the 4 conferences that have all 16 teams under this version, because you're not going to have one of these teams. It would take a mini miracle for one of the group of 5 to become one of the top 16 teams. They would have to have the schedule where they have an opportunity to play some of these teams, which is hard enough as it is, and then they would have to run the table, because If you lose one game, then you're eliminated, unlike some of these teams. So at the very minimum, if they were spread out equally, be 4-4-4-4. But it's not going to be that way.
No, I wouldn't want that either.
No. But the point being is, again, I just think that having one of the little guys being able to compete, I think, is actually a positive thing, not a negative thing.
You do. This year, because of that goofy ACC tiebreaker, you ended up with a 5-loss team in Duke getting in, who, by the way, won their bowl game. I just wanted to point that out. So that created the scenario where a second group of 5 team got in with James Madison, and you had Notre Dame, who FanDuel gave the 4th
Thank
best.
goodness we got Notre Dame into the show.
Well,
here.
hey, they had the 4, according to, I'm just
I know.
they had the 4th best chance to win it. And so they're not in, and some of these other teams are. And, people that are raising Cain about ESPN, not wanting Notre Dame. No, they wanted Notre Dame. They just wanted the ACC.
Wanted them both.
Yeah, they did. They wanted both Miami, but they were going to get 5 SEC.
And by the way, you talk about ESPN and other mid Fox. I mean, Fox and their relationship with the Big Ten and others. We're closer to getting to what you have. This because they would rather have the top 16 teams. They have the relationships with the major conferences. They don't have any use for James Madison to be in that tournament. So I would say it's more likely that your idea of 16 top teams will be in before my idea of keeping some of these teams involved. But why? Because I think you mentioned previously the reason why that even now we have those teams in there is because, again, the idea of a court case, right?
Yeah, litigation, no doubt about it. And the other thing is, look, if you're going to do that, then maybe you have to go back to 8 conference games, and you have to play, the ACC, the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10 are going to play each other more often, so you get a better idea to avoid the scenario you're talking about, and you've got more comparative games of cross-conference.
So you kind of have to go to a scheduling that is more like the NFL as opposed to college football, where the teams don't get to choose who you play. Because basically in college football, the schools decide who you play and where you play.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, I can tell you right now, they're 3-0. For next year, they are absolutely 3-0.
And I think you said as well previously as well is why wouldn't they do it? Because we've seen it done multiple times in recent years where it's worked.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Chad. If Indiana goes on and beats Miami,
you mentioned this, yeah.
This will be the 3rd year in a row that the Big Ten has won it, and the 3rd year in a row that the Big Ten, whether it was Michigan, Ohio State, and now Indiana, did not play a Power 4 opponent in the non-conference schedule. That's 3 in a row and 3 in a row.
It comes down to the point that it's like you can either do the right thing, which is to play, I think, the better competition.
The fans want it.
The right thing, but then that may not be the smart thing.
Well,
was playing Ohio State the smart thing for Texas? Retrospectively, no, it was not.
But honestly, I think 3 losses kept them out, not the loss to Ohio State. The other thing that hurt Texas, and you know this, they struggled with Mississippi State, and then they struggled with Kentucky or with another SEC team that was not playing at a very high level.
Right, it all put together. All right, I think there's going to be a lot to talk about and think about when it continues to develop this college football playoff.
I think
both this month and in the future as well, because I don't think anything that is developed is going to be permanent. We've seen that. I mean, even from last year, we saw the changes, so it'll continue to be changed.
Well, there are 4,000 players in the portal right now. Football players, 4,000.
That's amazing. I don't know how they do it. You need a big staff nowadays, I think, to run a college football program.
All across divisions.
Exactly.
One, two,
this is still crazy. Coming up, we're going to talk about the games. I mean, just an amazing game on Thursday and an amazing game in a different way on Friday.
Yes.
So we'll talk about those 2 games in our next segment as we continue here on Sully's College Football page on 98.9 WXCO.
The Men's Cafe, serving old-fashioned American comfort food in a cozy atmosphere. Whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, your choice is the Men's Cafe. Call ahead for carryouts, deliveries to downtown Wausau, and catering is also available. Check them out at mintcafewausau.com.
Looking for a part for your vehicle? Look to Hilltop Auto Wrecking in Wausau. Hilltop Auto Wrecking can help you find just about any part you need for your car, truck, or SUV. They have a great selection of auto glass and tires with lots of sizes ready to go. Hilltop Auto Wrecking is always looking to buy vehicles, so if you're stuck with an older junker, they can haul it away for cash. Hilltop Auto Wrecking, family owned and operated for over 40 years at 237-934 Del Rio Road, formerly 6806 North 33rd Street, Wausau. Call 715-675-3258. Are you looking to furnish a new home, apartment, or cabin? Are you looking for quality clothing at a reasonable price? Well, if you are, be sure to stop at St. Vincent de Paul at 131 West Thomas Street in Wausau. Make them your first stop, your one-stop shop for furniture, clothing, accessories, home products, and much more. And remember, St. Vincent de Paul in Wausau is more than just a thrift store. It's a local ministry meeting the needs of our community. Your purchases benefit those in need right here at home. So shop St. Vincent de Paul at 131 West Thomas Street in Wausau, where your purchases benefit your neighbors.
Since 1997, Mountain Bay Auto Care has been serving Central Wisconsin with top quality and affordable car repair and service. With ASC certified mechanics. Stop by 5702 Stella Avenue in Schofield or call 715-355-8646.
The warmth of your home is about making memories with family and friends and enjoying life celebrations. At Menzner Hardwoods Marathon, they understand the importance of bringing warmth to a place you call home. For over a century, their fifth-generation family business has been creating beautiful woodwork for the home and office, just as they have for over 130 years. Menzner Hardwoods looks forward to providing you with elegant wood products to enhance the beauty of your home or office. Visit them at menznerhardwoods.com. Menzner Hardwoods, timeless beauty for your home or office.
The Eat Fresh Refresh doesn't stop at your local Wausau Subways. When the urge hits, make sure to stop by any of the 4 Wausau Subway locations at 1609 Merrill Avenue, 330 East Bridge Street, 1819 West Stewart Avenue, and 4300 Rib Mountain Drive in Walmart. Catering, remote ordering, curbside pickup, and Subway delivery all available. And make sure to use the Subway app when you need Subway. Subway with 4 Wausau locations.
Buck's Golf Shop for all of your golfing needs. Located at 903 Grand Avenue, Suite C8, Rothschild, Wisconsin, 54474 in the Bushka Insurance Building on the east side. Specializing in Badger, Bucks, Brewer, and Packer golf-related items. Green Tag sale is 30% off the retail price. Call 715-581-2646 or email wellsgolf@pcpros.net.
At People's State Bank, we think checking accounts are like SUVs. That's why we offer more features to fuel your lifestyle. The best part? You can open an account without leaving your driveway. Just visit bankpeoples.com today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Sully's College Football page on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Well, Thursday and Friday was the college football playoff semifinals.
Fun games.
Yeah, I mean, started on Thursday, Ole Miss in Miami. And did you hear by any chance what Jimbo Fisher said about Lane Kiffin?
I did not.
He was basically throwing Kiffin under the bus, saying that he was just, he thought the way that Kiffin was basically jerking around his assistant coaches, some of them going back to Ole Miss and then being called back. And he basically said something that made a lot of sense. He said, number one, he got all peaked because he wasn't coaching. So he said, get on the plane. If you don't get on the plane, you're not going to be on my staff.
I heard that.
And then he got some pushback. So, we'll let you go back and help here for the run up to the Georgia game. Jimbo said, well, he was just trying to, look like the nice guy there. And then Mississippi did what he did not think they would do. They beat
kept
Georgia.
winning,
They
yeah.
beat Georgia. So then all of a sudden the transfer portal opens up and Lane says, well, we need you guys here. So it's like, again, in the run up to this game, it was, again, a hodgepodge of coaches. And, but I mean, Lane Kiffin, I hope LSU goes 0-12 next year. I mean, I know it's not. The thing is, I know they're going to win. I mean, we all know they're going to win. I mean, they got too much money, they got too much everything, so they're going to win. But it bugged me. So I was actually rooting for Mississippi in this game, just to throw another monkey wrench in Lane Kiffin's life. But at the same time, Miami, again, I mean, it just shows you get in. If you have that ticket, anything can happen. And they were the team that got that last ticket when they announced it. And and the thing is, they've earned it. I mean, the way they played. I mean, you got to tip your cap. There was an idea that Cristobal really wasn't a big game coach. I guess he's changing that in this run.
Well, they've certainly have got into the playoff and took advantage of the opportunity that, by the way, they earned.
Yes, they did.
The fact that they won. The ESPN decided the best way to get 5 teams.
Well, you were right, ESPN here.
I am writing because I know what they did. 811 million, they were going to get 5 in. That meant that they had to get people focused
You're
on.
not wearing a tinfoil hat.
They had to get people focused on Notre Dame and Miami head to head. When a subterranean moron knows that when you play head to head, whoever wins gets the nod. That's been that way since Alley-oop was playing football. It's always been that way. And it kept the conversation away from 5 teams from the SEC. So I didn't appreciate that. But as far as Miami, they always should have been in. When Mario Cristobal was saying, this is ridiculous. Why is this even being discussed? We won that game. He was not 100% right. He was beyond 100%. So this is just chickens coming home to roost.
I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm not totally agreeing with that idea that you just all of a sudden you play that game in August and then that is no matter what happens the rest of the way, it doesn't matter. I disagree with that. I think that's a big factor in it, but I do think that there can be a definite pathway to saying that, based on the rest of the season, a team, in this case Notre Dame, performed better than Miami did. But I have no issue with Miami being in, but I just don't think that it should be that simple where you then just say, well, that's the way it is. Because I guess the way it is that you could always say that, well, the rest of the season Notre Dame was much better than they were. And again, in a very tight game on the road, I mean, you throw that into it. And I also nowadays, and one of the things that I really don't like about the overtime system is, well, you have this staged way of doing overtime where you get the ball at the 25-yard line or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you have one team that wins and one team that loses when it really was a tie game.
Well, you get it as a 2.5 after you
whatever exactly. So it's all about just getting a W or an L, and the idea is, and there's going to be a point at some point in this college football history where it comes down to, well, this team they lost to this other team in the 8th overtime or whatever.
Sure.
So that's it. I mean, no, I mean, I'm not a big fan. Again, we're getting down this rabbit hole.
Well, but this may surprise you, but I agree 100% with everything you said.
There's nothing wrong with a tie.
That when you were talking earlier about that playing that game early and then the teams evolve through the year.
Where it's played and everything else. Okay. I mean, there's a lot. I just think that it's a little overly simplistic to say, well, Miami beat Notre Dame, so that automatically at the end of the season, they're going to get the call. Again, that's a big factor. I'm not saying it's not a huge factor, but just to simply say that's the way it is, I think that's a little overly simplistic.
Now, can I finish?
Yes, you can.
I'm trying to say to you, I agree. It is too simplistic. What I'm looking at is exactly the same record. They both finished 10-2, playing very similar schedules. It wasn't like Notre Dame was playing Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, where Miami was playing Duke, and right. So very similar schedules. Miami had a spot, where they lost 2 games. And then Miami was kind of dropped. They were 8 places behind the Irish when they went to the first poll came out. And so the reality in my mind was they should have never been that far back. And
they also had some games though that they didn't play that well and won.
Right.
I think that was also a factor. Again, there is so many different ways of when those meetings took place. It may have been after one of those games that they didn't play very well as well.
And now ESPN has got you and I doing this. We're talking about Notre Dame and Miami when the conversation should have included Oklahoma, and Alabama,
especially Alabama.
Yeah,
I think Alabama this year was not one of the best teams by far.
They had 3 losses.
And they had bad losses too.
Yeah, they were the only team in the history of the tournament to lose a championship game and not drop at least one spot. They did not drop.
And one of their losses was to a team with a losing record, which is
Auburn and that
FSU.
Because
they
Auburn
beat Auburn.
Yeah,
they almost lost to Auburn.
They did. That was 27-20.
All right, let's talk about the game because it was such a great game. And again, these rabbit holes are so easy to fall into.
They are, yes.
But Miami and Ole Miss, what jumped out?
Well, third down.
Yep.
To start with, Miami was 11-19, which is pretty impressive. They were almost 60% on third down, which means that Ole Miss really couldn't get them off the field, while Ole Miss was 2 of 10, 20% on third down, which is certainly not good for your D and keeping your O moving. So third down, I thought, jumped out. There was another oddity. Both quarterbacks passed exactly the same number of times, 37, and completed exactly the same number of 23. Chad, I've recorded at least 800, 900 games. I've never seen that before. Because when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, that's really odd.
And almost the same yardage. That would have been something. It was
then it would have been twilight. It would have been that phone going off. Yeah, so I thought, what a great game. It comes down, to that Hail Mary into the end zone. And a lot of people thought there was interference. And one of the guys that I meet with, on Saturday morning before the show, Robbie Orcott, he was saying he has never seen pass interference called on a Hail Mary. Have you? I was trying to think back.
Very rare. I can't remember. You're exactly right because, man, it's almost I mean, it's almost anything goes because they don't want it to be a penalty. This is, again, you've probably heard this in your coaching career as well, that when officials say, well, we don't want to determine the winner.
The story.
At the very end. Well, you are determining it if you avoid an obvious penalty.
Yeah, the rules are the rules.
Exactly. If it's a penalty on the in the third quarter, it's a penalty on the last play of the game. But you're right. I mean, we rarely see. I can't remember.
And you just knew that Ole Miss was going to come out and play. The SEC, not in the championship game, now the third year, the pride of the SEC, the overcoming the world with what Kiffin did to them. And so, like you, I was kind of pulling for them,
Because of Lane Kiffin.
Well, yeah, Kiffin, Kiffin is...
he's not
I don't see what the big deal about him is terms... What's he won?
And the thing about it is, one last note about Lane Kiffin is, when I say that he's probably going to win, well, yes, he probably is going to win, but the thought would be that he probably should have won at USC, and he didn't, so it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, he was there when Pete Carroll was there, so he should have had a pretty good idea of what
he was not able to do it.
Yeah, he was not, and and the way he's left places and disaster and the ill will that follows him. He had it going at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
he needed to stay there and finish the season.
And then last night, Oregon and Indiana, and one of the numbers that really stood out to me is Oregon had more yardage, but they certainly did not have more points, did they?
They did not. And when you look at Mendoza's ratio, 5 TDs, no picks, 20 attempts, 17 completions. He was at 8.9 or whatever that was. 8.9 yards per attempt. So every time he threw the ball, he was right on the cusp of a first down.
11 of 14 on third downs too. I mean, you couldn't get them off the field, could you?
No, I mean, that's really impressive what they did there. And, that is such a the release for the defense thinks they're going to get off the field, the O's get, and then bang, first down. And now you got to do this 4-down series all over. And then the turnovers, 3-0. And some of these turnovers, I mean, you start the game with the pick six, and then you're on your 7-8 yard line, and your back runs into the quarterback's arm, and the ball gets loose. So there were some things that were just unforced errors, that he didn't see. And that ball was thrown. If you look at that first pass, it was thrown inside. That ball needed to be to the sideline, where he could break down and then move to it.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's Miami and Indiana in the national championship game. We're going to take one final timeout and then come back, wrap up the show, talk about that national championship matchup coming up next here on Sully's College Football Page on 98.9 WXCO.
Crab River Golf Course in Wausau is a unique 18-hole public course. The relaxed atmosphere and breathtaking Northwood scenery is sure to make your golfing day a satisfying experience. For membership information and tee times, call Crab River Golf Course at 715-675-3044.
France Propane at 1153 Foundry Street in Schofield is a local family-owned complete service company serving central Wisconsin for over 2 generations. France Propane is a value-driven company whose goal every day is to provide excellent service, maintain the highest safety, reliability in customer care, and competitive pricing. France Propane, service first, safety always. Check out France Propane at francepropane.com. For over 30 years, Webco has worked with corporations, schools, organizations on their apparel and promotional needs. Webco can handle small quantities to orders in the thousands with a fast turnaround. Webco of Wausau, 1405 West Thomas Street.
The Central Wisconsin School of Ballet is celebrating over 52 years of dance instruction. They offer classes in ballet, jazz, contemporary, modern, tap, and musical theater for ages 2 to 99. And did you know that ballet is used by college football teams as a conditioning and cross-training program? Stop in for a trial class, call for a brochure, or email your questions to the studio.
North End Pub. Cold beer, clever conversation. All stories cross-referenced for validity. If you're looking for a nice spot to hang with friends, North End Pub will do the trick. Stop in for thirst relief today. North End Pub, North 3rd Avenue, Wausau.
Big Fat Designs can give your company the cutting-edge look it needs to attract customers and stand out from the rest. From websites and print designs to logos and letterheads, Big Fat Designs is your effective and affordable marketing solution. E-commerce, online customer database, video and audio players, Big Fat Designs does it all. And the best part, you deal with someone locally to talk with, to meet with, working hands-on towards your success. Big Fat Designs in Wausau. Find out more online at bigfatdesigns.com.
Witness the difference at Newman Catholic Schools, where education is embraced by the Christian faith and students are held to a high standard of academic excellence. Schedule a tour and learn what it means to be a Newman Catholic Cardinal. Visit newmancatholicschools.com to learn more.
Sully's College Football Page, 98.9 WXCO. WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, and at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With Sully, I'm Chad Holmes, and again, as you get ready for the national championship game, just go to SullysCollegeFootballPage.com, get all the information you need, as it's a very busy time, both with the national championship game, the transfer portal open for another week, and a whole bunch of other things going on in college football. But let's talk about the national championship game, because Miami and Indiana. I mean, again, you chuckle because the idea that it would be Miami and Indiana is just it's so outside the norm. Yes, Miami had some great teams, but it's been a long time since they've been in this situation. And for Indiana, again, it's just it's Twilight Zone time for the Indiana Hoosiers, as you have talked about so very often, to have a ball with points for Indiana.
Yeah,
it's
right.
like
Yeah. I mean, these are two of the best stories in college football, in my opinion. Miami is not in the tournament until the last selection day. Then they're in. And so you get in, which you and I really agree that should have never come to that. They clearly had played their way in. But nonetheless, they get in the last day, and here they are in the championship. And here's Indiana, the losingest team until just recently.
Till this year.
Yes, in college football history. Cignetti comes in and has the famous quote, "Google me, I win," which was good.
And,
Although last night, Chad, I don't know what you were thinking about, but let me finish. That's the best story, Indiana. That is the best story the last 2 years in college football, and maybe all of sport. You could certainly make a case for it. But I question what he was doing in the fourth quarter of that game by keeping all those kids in the game. I thought, what are you doing, man? You're not getting any style points. There's no committee looking at this
right.
to say you beat them by 45 and you didn't sub. I thought, I hope to God nobody gets hurt, because as good as he's been, there are going to be people that are going to want his head on a pike. So I don't know what he would. Did you feel that way or think that way?
I was actually working, so I didn't see the end of the game.
I mean, I was, I'm told, what are you doing? You've got nothing to gain by keeping and let his brother play. Put his brother and let him play.
Actually, there was one aspect that would have been interesting if Oregon had won, because then it would have been Cristobal against his old school.
Yes, yeah.
He had bailed on him to go to Miami.
Yeah, you remember those kids? Willie Taggart was there at Oregon, and then he runs from Oregon
to FSU.
Exactly right. And then this guy, Cristobal's there, and he runs to Miami. And that would have been interesting as well. There were several scenarios like that with Carson Beck potentially playing Georgia had not Ole Miss beaten Georgia, so you would have had him against his old team. But nonetheless, we got this, and this is something to be excited about, because I think these teams have clearly demonstrated they are the two best teams in the tournament.
You're exactly right. And of course, we'll have a lot of time next week to really delve into it. But just real early on, I know that your game simulator is talking about a one-sided affair. What's your early thoughts on this one?
The simulator, and you can go on Sully's college football page and you can compare 267 teams against one another. So I don't know how many game comparisons that is, other than I would use the scientific number of a lot. You can compare a lot of teams. Here, excuse me, the site thinks by the numbers, Indiana dominates all 8 categories. They just outperform Miami by the numbers, and so you always got to emphasize that. I think, like most people, I don't see many chinks in Indiana's armor. Their offensive line last night, Chad, you didn't see the game, but they just sealed it up. There was virtually no pressure on Mendoza. He had all the time he needed, and he is very accurate. He threw the ball up and over, dropped it in. He threw some ropes. You always say you test the quarterback's arm on the outs. Can you beat, if it's zone, can you beat that guy from the midpoint of his zone to the sideline? He did that. How well they read when they throw over the middle, Chad. He threw over the middle, 5 touchdowns, no picks. So he's the X factor. Carson Beck can be outstanding, and he can also have issues if he's hurried. It'll be interesting to see if Miami, with that great rush, can affect Mendoza, because they certainly have been able to affect everybody they've played. And now they're up against arguably the best offensive line in the country. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. So again, it should be, the run up begins. Do you think there will be a home field advantage for Miami?
I think Indiana is going to have, I think the whole state will probably be shut down. They have been starved for some kind of something to celebrate in football. They certainly have had a great history in basketball over the years. This is new. And, while there's certainly optimism looking forward, you don't know how many times you're going to be able to do this. So I think I would be surprised if Miami has a bigger crowd than Indiana.
All right. Well, so we'll talk more about it next week. Have
We
a
will.
great week, and we'll see you next Saturday.
All right. Thanks, Chad.
That's Sully. I'm Chad Holmes, and this has been Sully's College Football Page. One more for the road next Saturday from 9 to 11 here on WXCO.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.